بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So tonight inshallah we're going to start the chapter of Hajj. So just like Ramadan, we mentioned that the way of the ulama is before a season of ibadah, then they study that chapter connected to ibadah, studying it, revising it, all in prep for the ibadah, the season of ibadah that's coming up. So we studied fasting before Ramadan, zakat during Ramadan, and now Hajj on the brink, so we take the chapter of Hajj inshallah. So it's very important that we learn these kind of chapters. If we look at the chapter of Hajj, we're going to come across masail connected to pillars of Hajj and wajibat of Hajj. And then you get sunan of Hajj. And then you get what we'll call kaf, things you have to abstain in Hajj, which is called mahdhurat of Ihraam. And then you get rukhas, you get concessions, So it's very important that a person has knowledge of these things. Because if they leave out a pillar or a wajib of the Hajj, then the Hajj is short. If they leave out a pillar, the Hajj will be invalid. If they leave out a wajib action, the Hajj will be falling short by a lot. They need to give a substitute of the wajib they left off. So it needs knowledge. And ignorance in these things, it's not acceptable. And then there are sunan, alaykum salam. The sunan of Hajj. These sunan of Hajj, a person needs to know them. If they leave them out, then there's no sin. But the reward of Hajj is much less. That's why Rasulullah said when it comes to salah, a person can pray salah, but he only gets a 10th of a reward, or he gets a 9th of a reward, or an 8th of a reward. And that difference is who performs salah. One is the concentration in salah, and the other one is how much a person follows the sunnah during his salah. And the same with Hajj. The closer your Hajj is to the sunnah, the more reward. And then the last thing we said, the kaf, is mahdhurat of Ihraam. Those things that are forbidden during Ihraam. These things also, some of them you excused if you didn't have knowledge of them. We'll come across them. And some you are not. Those which we'll call itlafat. And then there's the rukhas, those concessions. These things are where, if you don't have knowledge of these things, sometimes you can make things very difficult on yourself. Because you think you have to do this, or you think I have to do this time. But the time is, you've got a vast period of time to do things. And sometimes because you have the knowledge, then you didn't do something. But you know you have the knowledge to do it, but you didn't do it because of a reason, because of crowds, because you realize that I don't want to push and shove with the people, or you realize that I can actually do it in this manner, or there's certain things that are sometimes not applicable anymore, either because of the administration, how they run the Hajj, or the fuqaha mention certain doors to enter the haram that are sunnah, they're not there anymore. Certain things with Safa and Marwa, they're not there anymore. But you have the knowledge of these things, so automatically you get the reward. So there's great reward in studying these things. So the Shaykh says that the asl, the default, or the main crux of the mas'ala of Hajj is Allah Azza wa Jal saying, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. That whoever is capable of performing Hajj, Allah has made it obligatory on the person to perform Hajj. And that is if he is capable. So the madhab is that Hajj is obligatory and Umrah is obligatory. Because Aisha radiallahu anha says that they asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is there any jihad on females? So he said no jihad for them other than Hajj and Umrah. And a lady who said, Ya Rasulullah, my father is gone old, he's not physically capable to perform Hajj. Can I perform Hajj on his behalf? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, perform Hajj on his behalf, wa'tamiri, also perform the Umrah on his behalf. So the mashhur of the madhab is that Umrah is also wajibah. And then the Shaykh mentions stipulations of Hajj. Now these stipulations, the Shaykh mentions one. He mentions the main one. They are obviously the general stipulations found in all the ibadat. Like Islam, you have to be a Muslim, and you have to be baligh. You have to be baligh for your Hajj, your fard Hajj to be ticked off. So if you are not baligh, Hajj and Umrah are valid for you, and there's reward in it. But it doesn't tick it off. If you are mumayyiz, and we mentioned either there's age or it has to do with the chapter. In terms of Hajj, the child processes what is Hajj, then he's got reached mumayyiz. Then here he performs the intention of Hajj or Umrah, but his intention is hanging on the permission of the person responsible of looking after him. So it's his father or similar to his father. So therefore if he says labbaik Hajj, or Allahumma Hajj, oh Allah, I'm doing Hajj, then we say you are not yet in Hajj unless the person looking after you approves of your Hajj. Why is this important? Because if a person goes into the state of Ihraam, old or young, he has to complete the Hajj or the Umrah. There's only a few situations where he can come out of it. So therefore, even the child has to complete Umrah, Hajj. The fatwa of the Mashayikh is on the Hanafi madhab that he can reject the Ihram. He can just go out of it if it's difficult. So that's for a Mumayyiz. A non-Mumayyiz, his wali, his father or the one looking after him does intention on his behalf. So that's for the stipulation of being baligh, being Muslim, being baligh. And then the Shaykh says the main one is being capable of performing Hajj. Being capable of performing Hajj. And what is being capable of performing Hajj? According to the fuqaha in the past, they mention milku zadi wal rahila. A person owning or having the means to own the transport to take him to Hajj and Umrah. That's what they phrased it like that. And number two, milk zad. He has the means to have food and water and clothing for his journey. They say if he has those two things, right? It's a bit different in today's time because now there's hotels and people, companies do the Hajj. It's not that you just book and go yourself. So therefore the rule will say of Zad and Rahila is a person having the funds to pay for the package for the Hajj and the Umrah with a company. If he has that funds for the company that's doing the Hajj and Umrah, then almost now we'll say Hajj is obligatory on him. So that's your start, having that amount of funds. But having that amount of funds, they say, after you deduct, the Shaykh says, بَعْدَ ضَرُورَاتِ الْإِنسان. So a person needs basic necessities, his main things to live. So you don't count your house as an asset that I must sell to go for Hajj. No. You don't count that I need a car or two cars. That's not an asset that you can sell for Hajj. But your extras, those things you see, if you need two cars, but you have five, those three assets, you have to calculate their worth. If each one is 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, and your Hajj package is 60,000 or 50,000, then you are capable of Hajj from this angle, from this one. There's a few others, okay? So those extras in your life, you need clothes, you need things in your house, furniture, those you don't count as assets. Similar to how we mentioned for zakah, for the debts. When do you deduct your debts? So your necessities that you need to live, your house, things in your house, furniture, bedding, sofas, these things are your main necessities. You don't count them as, do I have surplus assets or surplus wealth to see if I can go for Hajj? Meaning, can you sell I have a couch that I need in my house. Can I sell it? Do I need to sell it so I can do Hajj? You say, no, you need a couch. You need your basic furniture. Okay, but your extras, then you start counting their worth. That's so you don't look at your necessities for your living. And also necessities for those that is obligatory on you to support. Those that you support. So your children, maybe those that we mentioned in the chapter of zakah that you have to support, that you have to support those who you're not allowed to give zakah to. Those people. You see how much you need for them. And the scholar says ala dawam. So that means the scholar says you say that you need to have enough funds for your Hajj trip and for your family left behind. Your family left behind while you're gone. They need to be able to live as normal. Then they say even when you come back, you need to have an income. So therefore, you for example, you have a job that you get a salary from that gives you monthly income that suffices for you and your family. Or you have rentals that come in that give you income for you and your family. Or you're a trader that you sell things every month and you get funds. So if you do not fall into this category, Hajj is not obligatory on you. That's another one. And also your debts to Allah and your debts to humans. So if you have kafara to pay, you have zakah to pay, you owe people debts, you have to deduct all these things. Short-term debts or long-term debts. That's what the fuqaha say. They say even if you have long-term debts, perhaps that you can say like we did in zakah, long-term debts up to 1 month. Because sometimes loans in these days are large amounts. So you look at these things, you deduct all of these things and you see what surplus things you have. The scholars also mention for a student of knowledge, if he has books of knowledge, if he has books for ilm that he needs for knowledge, then these things, just like zakatul fitr and zakah, these things are not deemed surplus. They deemed part of his needs. They deemed as part of his needs. So beyond these things, you look, do I have surplus? So you may have 10 cars, you may have other things, but then your debts are much more. or you have to support your family and so your expenses are very high, so then Hajj is not obligatory on you. Hajj is not obligatory on you. But the moment you have enough for your package to go for Hajj, surplus, and behind your family will be supported as normal, now you have that amount, now Hajj becomes obligatory on you. Now Hajj becomes obligatory on you. Now there's two things. So that's a stipulation, a shart. They say shartul wujub. Now these shurut make Hajj wajib. Okay? Then there's other shurut, they say it's mawani'. Now they have another shart. They say in amkanahu rukub. Now they say a person has to be physically capable to sit on his transport, to be able to undertake the journey. He has to be healthy and be able to sit for the journey. If he has to go by ship or by plane, he must be able to be capable, he must be able to endure such a journey. If he is not, because he's sick and it looks he's old or he's sick, he may not manage such a journey. Then here, if Hajj is obligatory on him, and now he cannot do it because of these reasons, physical reasons, illness that doesn't seem like he'll get cured from, or old age, then here he has to, from his place where he lives, he has to make somebody else do Hajj on his behalf. So either while he's alive, it has to be done if he's capable, if he finds somebody who can do Hajj from his city. That's one opinion. Otherwise, after his death, that amount for Hajj should be taken out. If he doesn't have enough from his city, then you take an amount from wherever that surplus amount would take him, from whichever city that Hajj can be performed on his behalf. Okay? The second opinion is that it doesn't have to be from your city. It can be from a miqat that you'd usually pass. You can ask somebody else to do Hajj on your behalf from a miqat. Number three, the fatwa of many mashayikh is that even if somebody is in Mecca and they're doing Hajj on people's behalf, that's okay. So it doesn't have to be from the place it's obligatory on you. But when you ask somebody to do Hajj on your behalf, there's a few stipulations. Number one, that person, he has to have done Hajj for himself. He has to have done his Hajj of Islam for himself. Number two, if you're alive, you have to give him permission. And then he has to have intention that this is behalf of somebody. He doesn't need to know your name, but he needs to know that it's somebody in this country that I'm doing Hajj on behalf of. If you have passed away, then he can do it even without anyone's permission. Without your heirs, anyone, he can just do Hajj on so-and-so. My cousin, I don't know the rest of the family, but I know my cousin didn't do Hajj. Hajj was obligatory on him. I want to do it on his behalf. If it wasn't obligatory on him, you can do it and get for the reward of that person. And also, so that's with regards to the person who does Hajj on your behalf. So we said having food and doing a journey, and then we actually mentioned it how we'd look at it today. So that skips us some of the masail the fuqaha mentioned. So we said either having it or having the funds to do it, right? Either having it or having the funds to do it for your trip to Hajj and coming back. And then they say this is the exception for this is the people of Mecca. The people in Mecca and close to Mecca, the traveling distance. They should go in anyway. If they can walk, they should even walk. Hajj is that obligatory on them. Then the Shaykh says that وَمِنَ الْإِسْتِطَاعَةِ أَن يَكُونَ لِلْمَرْأَةِ مَحْرَمٌ إِذَا احْتَاجَ لِسَفَرٍ. Another stipulation is that a lady, young or old, if she's 7 years plus, then it's obligatory on her to have a mahram to do Hajj. It's obligatory on her to have a mahram to do Hajj, even if she's close to Mecca. On the madhab, they say that if she's on a distance from Mecca, maybe it's not the distance to shorten the salah, but people would deem this as if it's travel, then here she needs a mahram. So here in this mas'ala, they say for traveling it's urf. For traveling it's urf in this mas'ala, for Hajj. That she needs, when it's a travel, that's urf, that people would deem this a travel, even if it's not 80 Ks or 100 Ks, then they say here she needs a mahram, old or young. Who is a mahram? They say it's a Muslim that is baligh and that is sane. A Muslim that is mature, that is sane, that is male. That is male, a male. And this is either her husband or somebody who it's forbidden for her to marry forever. Forbidden for her to marry forever for a permissible reason. Let's unpack that. Okay, a mahram, we said husband, that's clear. Or somebody it's not permissible for them to marry forever. So for example, your wife's sister. You cannot marry her while you are married to your wife. So she is currently haram for you to marry. She says you are her mahram. It's haram for you to marry her. But but you don't take the rules of being a mahram because you can marry her in the future. The moment you divorce your wife and the iddah is over, or your wife passes away, you can marry the sister. So that's why we say it must be forever. You can never marry this person, your auntie, your mother, grandmother, going onwards, your aunts that you cannot marry. Those people, you are their mahram in this mas'ala, in general. Number 3, they say for a permissible reason. Because some people, they are separated. It's haram for them to marry ever, but not for a permissible reason. Like what? Like li'an. When a husband accuses his wife of zina, and she rejects she says it's just an accusation. Then they go to the qadi, and basically what the process that happens is li'an. We'll mention it when we come to it in fiqh, but basically after the li'an process happens, then there's no penalty on either of them, there's no lashing on either of them, but they become haram for each other forever. Even if the husband decides thereafter that no, I was lying, she didn't commit zina, it's still haram for them. They still cannot marry. Another way that is haram, if a person were to commit zina with a lady, then her daughters and her mothers, they're all haram for him forever. He can marry her, but her daughters and her mothers, they're all haram for him. So that's a mahram. It's haram for him he's a mahram to them because it's haram for them to marry him and forever. But it's not for a permissible reason. Then when it comes to a mahram, we said it's a stipulation of being wajib, because the lady should also be able to, as a start, she should also be able to afford the hajj of her mahram. Because you're doing hajj for her, so that she can tick off her hajj. So she must be able to afford your hajj. Not that she must do it. Many men will pay for the hajj, or for especially their side of the hajj. But as a start, if she doesn't have enough for her mahram, hajj is not obligatory on her. The husband can say, I want to take you for hajj. That's fine. Is it obligatory on her? You can say no. So I can afford for myself, but not for my mahram. So it's not obligatory on her. Then if she has enough for her mahram, they say that the mahram does not need to go for hajj still. He doesn't need to go for hajj still. Unless, in Hashim al-Angari says, unless the husband himself is performing hajj that year, then he has to accompany his wife. That's the only time that he has to. And if the lady hajj becomes obligatory on her from the aspect of wealth that we mentioned, then she doesn't find the mahram. There's no mahram available. Then hajj falls for her completely. She doesn't even need to pay the money for somebody else to do hajj for her. It completely falls. If she had a mahram and she didn't do hajj, then here she has to appoint somebody else to do the hajj for her. And in this mas'ala, in the previous one, where a person is elderly or something, then if you don't find somebody to do hajj for the person, then hajj falls as well. So those are some masail connected to the mahram for the lady. But if she did hajj without a mahram, we say she's sinful for that. On the madhab, she cannot shorten the salah and join the salah because it's safar ma'asiyah. But her hajj counts. Her hajj is valid. The riwayah thaniya is that the ikhtiyar of Shaykh Taqiyuddin is that the hajj is valid and she doesn't need a mahram if she'll go with a group of females, or she'll go with a group, it will be safe, and her travel is for a reason. If her travel is for a reason, she doesn't need a mahram for a reason. So not for fun, for a reason like hajj being obligatory on her. So not nafil hajj. Nafil hajj is not a valid reason. Then it's not obligatory to have a mahram. So the last mas'ala with regards to this is the scholars say that if in the marriage contract the lady stipulates that the husband goes with her for hajj when it's obligatory on her, or she stipulates that he pays for the hajj, the entire hajj, hers and his, and he agrees to it, then this stipulation is binding. It's binding. So she can stipulate it in the marriage contract. It's a valid one. It's a valid stipulation. Okay, تفضل يا شيخ.
قال المصنف رحمه الله: وحديث جابر رضي الله عنه في حج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يشتمل على أعظم أحكام الحج، وهو ما رواه مسلم عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما.
اقرأ جملة أوكي؟ جملة وأنا أشرح جملة أكمل.
أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مكث في المدينة 9 سنين لم يحج ثم أذن في الناس بالحج في 10 أن رسول الله حاج
تمام. تمام.
فقدم المدينة بشر كثير فخرجنا معه حتى إذا أتينا ذا الحليفة فولدت أسماء بنت عميس محمد بن أبي بكر فأرسلت إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كيف أصنع؟ قال اغتسلي واستذفري بثوب وأحرمي.
تمام. So now the Shaykh quotes the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu. So this is an amazing lengthy hadith. It's a very, very detailed hadith exactly on the Hajj of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So generally the fuqaha in their books, they mention Hajj in the method of arkan of Hajj, wajibat, etc. Then the method of Hajj comes. Here the Shaykh has not mentioned it like that. He's mentioned the hadith and then a few of the arkan and that come after. So what we'll do is we'll take the hadith and we'll pull some masail here as we go and then others later as well. So the first thing is the Shaykh says that Jabir radiallahu anhu says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam spent 9 years in Medina and he didn't do Hajj. Then he announced Hajj in the 10th year. And we said that when a person has the financial capability of Hajj in the method that we explained, then Hajj is obligatory immediately. So the question is, why did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam delay the Hajj? So the scholars give many answers, but Ibn al-Qayyim gives a very good answer. And he says that the habit of the mushrikeen in Mecca was they used to delay the months. إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ فِي الْكُفْرِ. That what used to happen is, if a sacred month was coming, Muharram, Rajab, those sacred months, Dhul Hijjah, then what would happen is, fighting would be prohibited. So these mushrikeen would still want to fight, so they just change the month. They just do nasiyah, they just delay it. They'll say, no, we'll have our Rajab next month. So they'll just delay it. Okay, so what happened is, Ibn al-Qayyim says that they did this. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, every time that it would be Dhul Hijjah, he knew it wasn't actually Dhul Hijjah. So he waited, and in the 10th year when he did Hajj, it was the year that now Dhul Hijjah came in the actual time of Dhul Hijjah. Their calendar came in exactly with the actual date of Dhul Hijjah with Allah. That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that now the months have come, they've changed and they've now coincided with the dates according to Allah. So that's when he did Hajj. That's why he delayed Hajj and not of any other reason. So Hajj is still obligatory immediately, even though Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam delayed it. Then أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه فقدم المدينة بشر كثير فخرجنا معه حتى أتينا ذا الحليفة. So this group of a cluster of Muslims went out for Hajj and they went to Dhul Hulayfa. They went to Dhul Hulayfa, that is the miqat. So a person, when it comes to the miqat, he has to perform ihram at the miqat. Ihram before the miqat on the madhab is that it is makruh. It is makruh. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam never did it, and also because you may need to do some things that are prohibited in ihram. So you don't want to give yourself extra strain, to give yourself extra hours where these rules apply to you. And you don't know what may happen and you're already in ihram. And we said ihram can't be cancelled. So delay it until the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam put the ihram on. And that was at Dhul Hulayfa. Dhul Hulayfa is the miqat of the people of Medina and who pass by Medina. So with regards to the miqat, let's mention a few masail here. And that is the miqat, generally there's the miqat for the people of Medina is Dhul Hulayfa. The people of Yemen is Yalamlam. The people of Najd, which is like Qasim and Riyadh and those sides of Saudi and those areas going that way, and also in the west, in the east of Saudi Arabia, they'll pass a place called Qarn Manazil. Qarn Manazil, that's the miqat for those people. And then you have the miqat of the people of Morocco and the people of Egypt. They have the miqat of Juhfa. It's called Juhfa. And the last one is the miqat of the people from Iraq. And that side, it's a miqat called That Irq. Okay? So the furthest miqat from Mecca is Medina's miqat. It's the furthest one from Mecca. Then when it comes to the miqat, some of these miqat, it's a mountain. Some of them they say it's a tree, and others are a valley. Okay? So you can do the ihram, and we'll explain what's ihram at any point in the miqat. You can do it at any side of the miqat. The sunnah is when you reach the miqat, okay? In fact, before we go there, they say so you should not pass the miqat without ihram. So these people who are passing a miqat, they should perform the ihram. If a person is coming, let's say from Sham, and he is going to pass his miqat of Juhfa on his way, but he's coming to Medina first. then the scholars say he can delay his ihram until he comes to Dhul Hulayfa to go to Mecca. So if you are passing another one because your objective is somewhere else, you don't need to wear the ihram at your miqat, you can come to the later one. Okay. Now when it comes to the miqat, you have a person of few types. One is a person that's in the haram area. Number two is a person outside the haram area, not Mecca, outside the haram area to the miqat. They live there. And then you have the third person is beyond the miqat, which is like most people. So here, the scholars say, if you are a person living in the haram area and you want to perform Umrah, either you live there or you have performed Umrah already and you want to take another one, or you've entered Mecca for a reason that you are allowed to without the Ihram, and now you want to perform Umrah while inside the haram area. Then here you go out to the hill. So the hill is the closest area that is deemed outside the haram area. So you'll see signs in Saudi, in Mecca and in Medina, where is the haram. So here we're speaking of the haram in Mecca, they'll say this is the boundaries of the haram. In Mecca, a few k's outside of the haram, you'll say the boundaries of Mecca, of the haram. So you go out just beyond the boundaries. So that's where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam told Aisha radiallahu anha when Hayd came to her and they were going for this Hajj, she said to her, go with your brother Abdul Rahman to Tan'im. Tan'im is now where Masjid Aisha is built. Okay, because she did Ihram from there. So they went out to the outside of the haram area. Because for Umrah, for Hajj, you should join between the haram and the outside the haram. So in Hajj, you can do Ihram from inside, but you go to Arafah and Mina, all of that's outside the haram area. But for Umrah, if you're inside the haram area, that's why you go outside, because all the actions of Umrah are in the haram area. With regards to the miqat, I mentioned them being a valley, etc. Now, a masjid is built in at all the miqats. So it's very easy to know what's the miqat, okay? So here, a person inside Mecca, from the people living in Mecca, or he was already in Mecca, to do Umrah again, he goes out. To do Umrah again, he goes outside of the haram area. If you are living outside of the miqat, then you are not allowed to pass the miqat without ihram. If you are intending Mecca or the haram, or to do Hajj or Umrah, this is on the mashhur. On the mashhur, you cannot pass the miqat without ihram. Okay? Unless you've passed the miqat for fear, or entered the haram area for fear, or because of fighting, or because you're a person who needs to go in because of work that you in and out regularly. Then you don't need to have ihram always. The riwayah thaniya and the fatwa of the mashayikh is that you can go to Mecca, you can pass the miqat going to Mecca or to the haram without ihram if you're going in there for a reason other than Umrah or Hajj. You have family there, you have work there, you don't need to wear the ihram. The mashhur is that you have to have the ihram. Therefore, if you pass the miqat without the ihram, then you have to go back. If you don't go back and you make your intention for Hajj or Umrah after the miqat, then you have to give them. You have to slaughter an animal because you've left out a wajib. In fact, we would nowadays say if a person goes intending the haram, not just Mecca. In the past, Mecca was so small, it was inside the haram. Now Mecca is much larger. So we'd say that a person going to the haram, then that person which our mas'ala applies to, not merely going to Mecca. So based on that, those people that are in or living in Mecca outside of the haram, so they are outside of the haram area, they are in the miqat. They're within the miqat and outside of the haram area. And we mentioned those Jeddah, etc., those places. But what about those directly outside of the haram area in Mecca? So now the scholars say, some of what I've come across them say, is that the person in Mecca, or the person living in Mecca, he does his ihram from the place where he makes his intention. Where he decides, I want to do Umrah now in his house or wherever he is, then that's where he puts his ihram on, makes his intention there. Therefore, we said for the person in Jeddah, for example, he has the whole city. And if you're outside the city, you just have on your place, the place where you are, the farm, etc. In Mecca, the same thing applies. You can go further out and then decide to wear your ihram, that's okay. But further, closer to the haram, that you can't do. So that's for the person living in Mecca, outside of the haram area. Now, if you are living inside the miqat, but outside the haram area, then your city is where you wear ihram. So a person inside there, like people of Jeddah, people of Asfan, all those areas, they wear the ihram from their city. Anywhere in their city is the miqat, is like their miqat. If they are living outside a city, like on a farm, it's just their area, then that area, that farm of theirs is where they have to wear their ihram. So they can't leave intending Hajj or Umrah from their farm, or they're staying at a petrol station. They can't leave there without the ihram, because it's not a town. But if you're in Jeddah, for example, you can wear your ihram anywhere in Jeddah. Anywhere in Jeddah, that's fine. Now you have some people who pass the miqat from outside. They intend to do Hajj or Umrah, but they also intend to visit somebody in another city. Let's say they visit their friend in Jeddah or family in Jeddah for a few days, and then they want to go to the Haram. They want to go to the Haram. So where do they wear the ihram and what do they do? Here, these people, we say, because you intend, after doing your job in Jeddah or visiting your family in Jeddah, you intending the Haram afterwards, then you have to wear the ihram when you're passing the miqat, or after you did your thing in Jeddah, you go back to the miqat. Or if you wear the ihram there, you've left out the wajib, so you have to pay them, but your ihram is valid, right? If you are going to Jeddah, you're going inside the miqat but not to the Haram, and you are thinking, you are not intending Hajj or Umrah, then here you can pass without the ihram. Then while you're there at your family member or your friend, or you did your work, you decide, let me do Hajj or Umrah. Then you wear your ihram from there. Right? Number 3, you pass the miqat and you're saying, I'm going to Jeddah. Maybe I'll do Hajj, or maybe I'll do Umrah, maybe I won't. I'm not sure. Then this is deemed like no intention. So you can go pass without the ihram, and then if you decide you're going to do Umrah, you wear your ihram from the place you're in. If it's the city, if you're in a city, then you have the whole city, otherwise from the outskirts where you are in the place. So that's with regards to ihram. And another mas'ala, similar to what we just mentioned, a person passing the miqat and going to a place, he passed the miqat with the intention of nusuk, of Hajj or Umrah, but he goes to a place outside the Haram. So he goes to a place outside the Haram. The fatwa of many of the mashayikh today is that this person, if he stays at the place that he's going to visit, his friends or his family or the work that he's going to do, for the duration that he'd now not be deemed a traveler. So on the madhab, 21 salah or less. So here if he's staying beyond that, so 22 salah plus, then he takes the rule of a resident. So therefore what would he do? He can make the intention at the moment he wants to go. The moment he wants to go for nusuk, just like the people of Jeddah or the people of Asfan, one of those places. So here it doesn't affect that he passed the miqat with the intention of Hajj and Umrah or without the ihram, because he's going to stay beyond the miqat. He's going to stay at a place there for the duration that he'd be deemed a resident. He'd be deemed a muqim. So on the madhab, 22 salah plus on the madhab. Okay, and then connected to that, when it comes to the miqat, just a couple masail I didn't mention earlier, and that is, we mentioned those people who are passing the miqat. The scholars do mention what is meant when we say passing the miqat to go to the Haram, in fact to go to a place, to go to the Haram or outside, to a place outside of the Haram needing ihram. So some of them say that it is actually passing the actual miqat. And others say what is meant is actually passing anywhere that is parallel to the miqat. So if we go on the first part, then that allows many people to pass the miqat area, without ihram. But some of the hawashi, they say what is meant is not merely the actual place of the miqat, but it's meant even what's parallel to the miqat. Okay, but on the first opinion, it allows scope where even on the madhab that you are not allowed to pass the miqat at all. If you are attending Mecca or the Haram, then you would not have to do them based on this. You don't have to pay them based on this if you didn't come back for ihram. Okay, so we said passing the miqat. Another mas'ala is for those people who are not passing the miqat. They do not pass a miqat, and that is mainly for those people who come from like Sham side, and they come on the ocean, for example. Then the scholars say for those people who are not passing the miqat, or those even traveling and they're not actually passing through a miqat, then they make the intention for ihram or their miqat, let's say it like that, is when they are parallel to the miqat. So when they are passing the point of the miqat where they'd be parallel, and today it's easier to see on like you take maps and you are to see where's the miqat, and when you are close to that, when you are parallel to it, then that's as if it's your miqat. It's as if it's your miqat. This mas'ala, there's a difference of opinion amongst the contemporary scholars and others as well on how do you deduce what is parallel to the miqat. Because some say you draw a circle around the area, and others say you draw like a straight line. So it would come out to a different conclusion. But in simple terms, if you are parallel to it, you are passing it, it would be, you could see it on the maps that you are now passing it at this time, then it would be, you wear the ihram now. You wear the ihram now. And on for some of the, when there's actual roads that are parallel to the miqat, then there may be signs. Some of them have signs that you are passing now parallel to the miqat, so a person can follow that. Then those people who do not even pass something that's parallel to the miqat, passing something that is parallel to the miqat. So in the books of fiqh, they would speak about people coming from Sudan side, Bawr Sudan. They say it's almost like directly behind Jeddah. So they'd come straight through on the ship, straight, and they'd come to the shore at Jeddah. So these people, they say they can wear the ihram when they reach the shore at Jeddah. They can reach the shore at Jeddah. Therefore, connected to that, for somebody who's flying in the plane and he is coming, if he's flying over a miqat, then that's where he has to have made the intention before passing there. If he is not passing exactly over a miqat but parallel, then that same rule applies to him but in the air. But somebody not passing a miqat or parallel to a miqat at all, like he's flying from those directions, like the Bawr Sudan, what they call in the books of fiqh, then that person, some of the scholars say that since we can say that a city, the whole city takes one rule, like Jeddah will take one rule, then here it's overlooked if they were to put the ihram on even when they reach the airport in the city. Because we said that the actual point is that you wear ihram at the shore, but they're not going to pass exactly, or they may not pass exactly. So there's scope here where they can wear it at the airport, where they wear it when they reach Jeddah on the airport. And the scholars say that it is makruh to have your intention for going into ihram before the miqat we mentioned. But the qaida is that karaha goes when there's a need. So if a person, for example, is in the plane and he may fall asleep or something, and then he may miss the announcement for the miqat, or he's not sure and they won't announce the miqat, then he can make the intention while in the plane even before time. And that will be valid. Now, at the miqat, the sunnah for what ihram means. Ihram is not clothing. Ihram, when we say you go into the state of ihram, it's not clothing. Right? Ihram is an intention. It's a state you're in, where things that became halal for you now become haram. Ihram, haram. So cutting nails were halal, it's now haram. Removing hair were halal, it's now haram. Wearing normal clothes is haram. That's why you wear the cloths on the upper body and lower body. And if you didn't, then you've done a wrong thing of ihram, so you have to pay a penalty. That's why people wear the clothes already for ihram. But wearing the clothes doesn't mean you in ihram, even though people call it. It doesn't mean the rules apply to you already. You need to have intention of ihram. So the scholars say that it's sunnah to wear white for your ihram, your upper cloth and your lower cloth, white. And some of them say it must be new, others say as long as it's clean. Okay? And you wear shoes, you wear sandals. We'll explain what if you were to wear shoes and different things in the mahdhurat of ihram. Then they say another sunnah is that you do a ghusl before ihram. So you don't need to do ghusl at the miqat. Like let's say you're in Medina, because it's so close, it's a few minutes you're going to take from the haram to the miqat. If you did a ghusl at your house or in your hotel, that would suffice already. So you do a ghusl. They also say it is sunnah to clip your nails, to remove hair like pubic hair, underarm, etc. To remove that, because you can't do it while you're in ihram. So sometimes they can cause a smell and things like that. Number 3, to put perfume, but perfume on your body. It's sunnah to put perfume on your body. To put perfume on your clothes, makruh. But while you're wearing it, it's permissible. But if you took your ihram cloth on, let's say you put on the top perfume and you took it off, then now you have to wash it off before putting it on again. Otherwise you used perfume, which is not permissible in ihram. Right? So you put on your body, your perfume on your body. Then if you didn't touch the perfume intentionally, you didn't intend to touch the perfume, if you happen to touch it, it's okay. So the haram thing would be, you know this perfume here and you intentionally touch it or rub it, then that would be that it's as if you're using perfume in ihram. Then the sunnah is, okay, then we also mentioned that you don't wear clothes. Okay, the sunnah is that a person goes into ihram after salah. So if there's a fard salah, he performs the fard salah, that counts. If there's a sunnah salah after salah that he's performing, that counts. If there's no salah and it's not a time of prohibition, then he performs salah, he performs 2 rak'ah with the intention of ihram. Then what does he do? After that, this is Sharh al-Umdah. I found Shaykh Taqiyuddin mentioned it only, not the other. I didn't find it in some of the other books. He said that after ihram, while you're sitting facing the qibla, after the salah, while you're sitting facing the qibla, then now you intend ihram. So ihram is where? In intention. While you're sitting facing the qibla after the salah, fard salah or sunnah salah, or these 2 rak'ah, if it's not waqtul nahi, then now you intend ihram in your head. And it is sunnah to say, Allahumma inni uridu nusuka kada. You say, oh Allah, I intend to perform this Hajj or Umrah, or Hajj and Umrah. So you intend the type of Hajj or Umrah that you're carrying out. We'll mention them in the next lesson. Now, you articulate it. That's what they say. And then you say, فَيَسِّرْهُ لِي, oh Allah, make it easy for me, وَتَقَبَّلْهُ مِنِّي, and accept it from me. Then the madhab is that it is sunnah for every muhrim, every person who's going into ihram, to articulate. If you didn't articulate, it doesn't count. To articulate what they call ishtirat. Ishtirat is to say, إن حبسني حابس فمحلي حيث حبسني. صح? That if an obstacle comes to me that prevents me from completing my Hajj or Umrah, then I come out of my ihram. So you can use any words that come to this meaning. Where you say in حبسني حابس فمحلي, you can say محلي or محلي. So the riwayah is محلي حيث حبسني. That you can say these words that come out to the meaning that if you are stopped from performing your Hajj or Umrah for some other reason, what kind of reason? You are ill, or you lost your way, or you are stopped by they say an enemy, somebody who's not allowing you to go past wrongly, then you can come out of ihram. Meaning, once you are prevented from going, you can intend, either I stay on my ihram until I get a chance to, or I can just come out of it. In general, if you didn't make the stipulation, then you have to slaughter an animal. We'll come to it in the chapter of ihsar. Okay, so that's some of the masail connected to your ihram, and also the miqat. Then the next thing is Asma radiallahu anha, she gave birth at this point. So then she asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what should I do? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told her to perform ghusl. And the ghusl, she's in the state of nifas. So the ghusl won't remove the nifas. That's why it is sunnah to perform ghusl, even if you're in the state of major impurity. If you're in the state of major impurity and you're not in hayd or nifas, it's obligatory when you do salah or something. But for here, even for this person who the ghusl will not help, it will not remove it completely. It's min bab takhfif al-hadath, to make the impurity less, that you can also do it. Then wastathfiri bithawb, and that is to put something so that the blood doesn't mess. To put something that doesn't mess. Wa ahrimi, then you perform ihram. This shows that a lady in hayd or nifas, her ihram is valid. She can go into ihram as well. Thereafter, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu is after that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed at the masjid. He prayed at the masjid. At that time it was not a masjid. So what Jabir radiallahu anhu is referring to is the place Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed at, which later became a masjid. So that salah, it links to the mas'ala we mentioned of ihram after salah. Then he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on his animal called qaswa. So qaswa is a name here, it's not referring to the Arabic meaning of qaswa. Then when the camel got up, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat on it properly and it got up, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the words of talbiyah. He said ahalla bit tawheed. He said the words of talbiyah, which is labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik innal hamda wal ni'mata lak wal mulka la sharika lak. So the way the Shaykh recited it for the hadith, that's the way it should be done, stopping where he stopped. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik innal hamda wal ni'mata lak wal mulka la sharika lak. Like that you say it. There's a few ways of saying it, but that's one of them. So this means you are saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Oh Allah, I've answered your call. There's many meanings of what labbaik means. So you say, oh Allah, I've answered your call. Labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik. Oh Allah, I've answered your call. There's none worthy of worship besides you. Innal hamda wal ni'mata lak wal mulk la sharika lak. All praise and all bounties and all dominion is for you, Ya Allah, and there's no partner with you. So that's what they call, connects to tawheed. And you're saying, oh Allah, I've answered your call. So the scholars say that when you say this talbiyah, we're going to mention some rules to it. After the talbiyah, after you say the talbiyah, then it is sunnah to supplicate. It's sunnah to say dua. Why? There's very high chance you will be answered. Because you are saying, oh Allah, I'm answering you. So then in return, it's like Allah is going to answer you. You've answered Allah, Allah answer you. So it's sunnah to say dua. After your talbiyah, to say dua. And also salah on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So when it comes to the talbiyah, this hadith is saying after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was on his animal. To keep it short because of the time, the fuqaha say that after the salah, and you've done your ihram, you can do it after the salah, you can do it before, you can do it a long time after, it's all permissible. We mentioned the sunnah time, as long as you've not left the miqat. So after you do the ihram, from there your talbiyah starts, your time for talbiyah. So the scholars say that when it comes to the talbiyah, then it is sunnah. At every time you say the talbiyah, to also say your nusuk. You say labbaik umrah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak. Or you say labbaik hajj, or labbaik umrah wa hajj. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Okay? And they say if you're doing qiran, which is hajj and umrah together, it is sunnah to say labbaik umrah wa hajj. Sunnah like that. Not to say labbaik hajj wa umrah, to say labbaik umrah wa hajj. Because umrah comes first. So you say labbaik umrah wa hajj, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulka la sharika lak. So a man raises his voice with this, it is sunnah to do so, except if he's outside of the haram area and he's in the public areas, then here he doesn't. And a lady, she does it silently, not more than those around her. If they are her mahram, then she doesn't do it louder than that. Otherwise softly. And it should be in Arabic, otherwise in any language, if a person does not know Arabic. So then you say the labbaik, and you then say dua, sunnah every time to say dua, and to say salah and salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The scholars say that a person should do a lot of talbiyah during Hajj and Umrah. And he can do it until he starts doing actions that lead him to ending his ihram. So that he does talbiyah until he starts tawaf in Umrah. And in Hajj until he starts pelting on the day of pelting. The first pelting on the day of slaughtering. That's when he starts pelting, then the talbiyah stops. Because he starts pelting, he slaughters. If he's going to slaughter, and then he removes his hair, and then he does tawaf. Then he's one step out of the ihram. Okay? Or almost both actually. We'll come to it inshallah. So with regards to this, the talbiyah, the scholars say that on the madhab, they say it's recommended to do one talbiyah. Not repeated talbiyah. One talbiyah in one state. So they say it's recommended to do talbiyah as you're on different states. If you go up, if you go down, if you go right, if you go left, if you forgetfully done something that is not permissible in ihram, if you've heard somebody say the talbiyah, after salah you say the talbiyah. So in all of these situations, they say it is recommended to do talbiyah, but you do it one time. So you don't repeat it. You do other forms of dhikr. So you don't repeat the talbiyah, repeat it. You do it one time and then you carry on with one dhikr. Okay? And then, so Jabir radiallahu anhu says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this Hajj, he did qiran, he did Hajj and Umrah in one. Okay, we'll come to these methods of Umrah in one of the upcoming lessons inshallah. But he's saying that the people did their tahleel, their intention of Hajj and Umrah the same way Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did it. They intended it similar, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't tell them anything about it. He didn't negate it or anything like that. We'll come to the fiqh of it in the upcoming lesson inshallah.
قال جابر لسنا ننوي إلى الحج لسنا نعرف العمرة حتى إذا أتينا البيت معه استلم الركن فطاف 7 فرمل 3 ومشى 4 ثم تقدم إلى مقام إبراهيم فقرأ واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى فصلى 2 فجعل المقام بينه وبين البيت.
أكمل الجملة التالية.
وفي رواية أنه قرأ في 2 قل هو الله أحد وقل يا أيها الكافرون ثم رجع إلى الركن واستلمه.
So Jabir radiallahu anhu says that they all intended Hajj. They didn't realize of the Umrah part. And then he says when we reached Masjid al-Haram. So the scholars say that it is sunnah to enter Mecca from the upper side of Mecca, which today is on the path of the graveyard of Mu'alla or Hajjum on that side. Passing that graveyard on that road, that's the sunnah side to enter Mecca from. Rasulullah intentionally used to enter from the top of Mecca, and he used to leave from the bottom of Mecca. That is what today is the path of in Shubayka or Hayy al-Jarwal. It's on that side. It's on that side to leave from there. To leave from there. It would be sunnah to leave Mecca, to leave the Haram from there as you're going out, and to enter on that part, taking you by that graveyard of Mu'alla, or it's called Hajum, or they call it Hujum. The Muhaddithin, they have two ways of pronouncing it, Hajum and Hujum. So that's how you enter Mecca. Then you enter the Haram. You enter the Haram, reciting the same dua as usual in the mosques. Then the scholars say when the first time you see the Kaaba, then you should raise your hands and say dua. And they mention a few du'as in the books of fiqh, and also it can be found in the books of Hajj, so we'll not mention them because of time. So he says, then you enter into the Kaaba. Rasulullah used to enter from Bani Shayba for a few reasons, but it's not there anymore. It used to be in the Mataf side, but it's not there anymore, so you can enter anywhere. You will say Sunnah Fata Mahalluha. And then he says what Rasulullah did, he did istilam of the Hajar. So he went to the Hajar Aswad on the corner of the Kaaba, and he did istilam. So istilam, we'll come to it inshallah, the fiqh of it when we come to the fiqh of tawaf. But as a start, istilam is to basically place your hand on the Hajar Aswad, to place it. And the sunnah would be also to kiss it. They say kiss it without sound. And to do sajda on it, meaning to place your forehead on it as well, if you can. To place your forehead on it, kiss it without sound, or to place your hand on it, So that's what Rasulullah did. And thereafter he did tawaf. So the sunnah is, when it comes to a person entering for Umrah, the Haram, then he should begin immediately with the Umrah, if he can. If he can, he should start with Umrah. That's equal to Tahiyyatul Masjid in the other mosques. So then Rasulullah did tawaf 7 times around the Kaaba. We'll come to the fiqh of it. He فَرَمَلَ ثَلَاثٍ وَمَشَى أَرْبَعٍ. So we'll mention a few masail of Ramal. So Ramal, the scholars say, for a person outside of the Haram area, a person living outside the travel distance outside of the Haram, beyond that, or some say beyond the miqat, those who come from outside, for them Ramal is sunnah. So not the locals, alright? And not for ladies, and not for a person not walking. So he's basically pushed on a wheelchair, for example, or he's on a cart, not for them. And also not for a person carrying somebody else, like a child or somebody using their ihram cloth. So they don't do Ramal, and they also another sunnah you do Ramal. So for a man who's not one of those few, he does Ramal in the first 3 rounds of tawaf. The scholars say that if he doesn't do it in all 3 or in some of them, he doesn't do qadha of it in the last 4. So Ramal is in the first 3. The scholars say that if you were to go closer to the Kaaba but not do Ramal, or be further away from the Kaaba with Ramal, then to be further away with Ramal is better. Unless if you were to be further away, you'd be mixing with many females. Then they say rather go closer and leave off the Ramal. Okay? And if you cannot do Ramal in parts of the Tawaf, but you can in others, then you do Ramal in those parts. So you can walk, then there's crowds, then you can do Ramal, then there's crowds, then when you can, you do it. Ramal is to take steps close to each other, right? And walking a bit faster. So you walk briskly, faster, but your steps are close to each other. Okay, that's what Ramal means. So you do that for 3 and then not for 4. Another sunnah of your tawaf of Umrah, or the first tawaf when you enter Mecca, tawaf al-Qudum, is to do ittiba'. So ittiba' is where you take your ihram and you put your right side below your right shoulder, so by your armpit, and you drape it across to your left side. Right? This is makruh in salah. It's makruh in salah. In fact, it's makruh in salah to do like that. So you do it for your tawaf 7, and then you put your ihram back normally. And for salah, you put to cover both your shoulders. But otherwise, you do ittiba'. So you put the right part of your ihram by your right armpit, and you throw it over onto your left side. So that's with regards to ihram, to the tawaf. After the tawaf, Rasulullah then went behind the maqam Ibrahim, and he performed 2 rak'ah. So he performed 2 rak'ah after tawaf. And in this 2 rak'ah, Jabir radiallahu anhu says he recited Surah Kafirun and Surah Ikhlas. So that would be the sunnah. And Rasulullah went behind the maqam Ibrahim. So the scholars differ as what is meant by maqam Ibrahim. Is it the actual rock, or is it a place? Because the maqam Ibrahim is actually moved from where its original place was. So some of the scholars, Ibn Jasir in his book of Manasik, he said what is meant is the rock. So therefore where it's placed, then behind it you pray your 2 rak'ah. You pray your 2 rak'ah. So as you go further, because of crowds, then it will still count as the sunnah. But if you pray it anywhere in the haram or anywhere in the world, it will be valid. It will be valid. A person is allowed to perform many sets of tawaf. So he performs 7 tawaf and he doesn't do 2 rak'ah, but he goes again and then again without 2 rak'ah, and then afterwards he can perform 2 rak'ah for the amount of 7 circuits of tawaf he did. Another mas'ala they mention is that you can perform, if there's a fard salah or a sunnah salah after the tawaf, you can dual intention it. So you intend the fard and also salah after tawaf. Or the ratibah, you can intend also salah after the tawaf. And it will count. You don't need to pray a separate one. Therefore, when we're saying 2 rak'ah, that's in general. The scholars say, Sheikh Buhuti points out that it doesn't have to be 2 specifically. So if it's a 4 rak'ah salah, then it would count. It will count. Okay, after that, then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam went back to the rukn, went back to the Hajar Aswad, and he did istilam again. Another sunnah after the tawaf is to drink zamzam. And the scholars say to drink zamzam, and they say yatadalla. He drinks so much like he's full of zamzam. Full of zamzam. And also to splash, kind of, not wash yourself, but splash water, zamzam over your face and certain parts of your body, some parts of your body. And they say you should drink zamzam with the intention of something that you want from Allah. So many scholars drank zamzam with the intention of knowledge, or intention you want to become hafiz of the Quran, you want barakah in your wealth. You intend that as you drink zamzam. And you can also say a dua. You can also say the dua, articulating it. The zahir kalam of the fuqaha, they don't specify the time that you say, or not what I've come across anyway, where you say the dua. So you can say it before you drink, you can say it while you're drinking, you can continue praying for what you want, or after. All of that's fine. Then the last thing we'll take today is with sa'i. Thereafter, after tawaf, we'll mention some sunan of tawaf and dua and tawaf inshallah when we come to the masail of tawaf. But after tawaf, then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam went to the mas'a. He went to do sa'i. So he went through the bab of, it was called the bab of sa'i. It was called the door of sa'i, which is not there anymore, because the mas'a, the place of sa'i, is basically in the mosque nowadays. So you go to the mas'a. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he went to the mas'a, he went to Safa. He went to the mountain of Safa. And as he got close to it, he recited the ayah, Inna as-Safa wal marwata min sha'airillah abda'u bima bada Allahu bih. So he said, Allah began with in Safa first in the ayah. So I'm starting the sa'i from Safa. So he went there and he climbed up on the mountain a little bit, and then he faced the Kaaba and he supplicated. So now in today's time, on the floor, on that high, other than the basement floor, you're not going to basically climb up the mountain much, right? It's not really. So you basically stand in a way where you can see the Kaaba, if it's possible, from basically on the barriers there. So you then go there and then you face the Kaaba and then you supplicate. And this is one of the places that it's sunnah to raise your hands in dua, and dua is very highly chance of being accepted. So you face the Kaaba, right? And then you supplicate. So Jabir radiallahu anhu says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said the takbir, and then he recited La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. La ilaha illallah wahdah anjaza wa'dah wa nasara abdah wa hazama al-ahzaba wahdah. So the narrations differ on how this should be done. But on the madhab, now you've climbed up Safa, you face the Kaaba, you raise your hands, you say Allahu Akbar 3 times, you say this dua, La ilaha illallah wahdah la sharika lah, to the end 3 times, and then you repeat again. Then you say the takbir, you did 3 and you did 3. Now you supplicate. So takbir 3, you did La ilaha illallah wahdah, you repeated it 3 times, and then dua. Okay? Shaykh Taqiyuddin Sharh al-Umdah, he says some of the narrations say that you say the takbir 3 times, dua 3 times, takbir 3 times, La ilaha illallah wahdah 3 times, then dua, and then you go again, takbir 3, La ilaha illallah wahdah 3, and then dua, and then takbir 3, La ilaha illallah wahdah 3, and no dua. So you began with takbir and you ended with takbir. The madhab is 3 takbir, 3 times La ilaha illallah, then you supplicate. Then you supplicate with any dua. There's some dua mentions in the books of fiqh and also books that will probably explain on Hajj. So you can supplicate in any dua. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu would prolong his dua on Safa and also on Marwa. Nafi' says we were young, but we used to get bored of it because it's such a long time he'd supplicate while facing the Kaaba. Thereafter you go from Safa to Marwa. And here The round is, you go 7 times. So Safa to Marwa is 1. Some people go Safa to Safa and then back to Marwa and they count that as 1. So they end up doing 14. And it's a long round. It's a long round. So the correct thing is Safa to Marwa is 1, then Marwa to Safa is 2. If you started at Marwa to Safa, that doesn't count. So when you go back from Safa to Marwa, then that will be your first one. Okay, so you have to start at Safa, you have to start at Marwa, end at Marwa. And then the scholars say that you have to make sure that you've completed the entire circuit. You can't leave even a small amount behind. So they say on their time, on how they explained it, when the mountain was still there, and the earth goes higher as time goes. So the mountain, even in the past, was getting covered by the earth going up and up, right? And nowadays it's covered quite a lot. But anyway, they say that when you start your sa'i, you should wajib to have your heel on the mountain. So you have to make sure that you've covered it. Beyond that, if you start from behind, that's perfectly fine. But they say the minimum is that your heel was on the mountain and you ended with your toe touching the other mountain at Marwa. And then you turn around heel to toe to make sure you've covered it completely. To go beyond that, in their time to climb up the mountain, they say that is sunnah. So to go beyond is sunnah. In today's time, there's boards saying that Safa starts here, Marwa starts there. Right? They do it exactly parallel to where the mountain actually starts underground, under the basements that you can see. So they've even been precautionate by a few meters. So you can start where the board says start, and end where the board says end. If you went a bit more, that would be fine. Then the last few things when it comes to the sa'i is that the aspect of doing sa'i. The way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it, the Jabir radiallahu anhu says, is that he went from Safa, and then when he reached, in that time it was like a valley that went down, and goes up again. Right now you have a floor, it's marked with lights, to show that now here it's the point where you start rushing, you do sa'i. Okay, you do sa'i. So the method of sa'i, the scholars say that it is more than ramal that we explained, but less than actually running. So beyond the ramal, so it's a very fast walk. A ramal is together your steps and you walk briskly. Here you walk quite fast, but it's just less than running or less than sprinting. Okay, so that's with regards to how the sa'i happens. So you do sa'i between the green lights. There's green lights on the mas'a. The madhab, the fuqaha actually differ in how they explain, because the madhab is like a couple meters, like 3 meters before the light starts, you start your running. But some of the scholars say that actually you start at where the light is, because it's with regards to, some of them say that actually the station where the light was, it was moved at a period of time. So that's why the madhab are deeming it like before it was moved, it would be like 3 meters before where it's now. And others, they give an explanation, but the zahir kalam of the fuqaha and the madhab is that like 2 or 2.5 meters before the green, you start your sa'i. Then the last things with sa'i is that sa'i, you need the intention for sa'i, and you need to have it before a tawaf, after a tawaf. So even if it's a sunnah tawaf, then you can do sa'i. So sa'i you can't just do randomly, and you can't do sa'i after a tawaf where you just do tawaf. You just go for 7 rounds. It's not Umrah, it's not Hajj, then you can't do sa'i. Okay? And sa'i, there's muwala in sa'i. Between the rounds of sa'i, in a round of sa'i and between the rounds of sa'i, there should be muwala. So you shouldn't cut it. So the zahir kalam, actually the sarih kalam of the fuqaha is that if you have to break your sa'i for even a small amount of time, you restart your round. So if in round 3 you broke for salatul janazah or the farad salah, then you go back to the beginning of Safa to Marwa, Marwa Safa, then Safa to Marwa. So then you'd go back to Safa to start your round 3 again. And they say same with tawaf. If you stop for a reason, let's say in round 4, you go back to the Hajar Aswad to start the round again. That's the zahir kalam. That's what they say. Right? The fatwa of the mashayikh is that these small amounts of time, it doesn't break. You can just continue from the point where you left off, similar to the Hanafi madhab. Therefore, because the fuqaha stipulate in tawaf that you need to be in tahara, if your tahara broke, your tawaf breaks. In sa'i, your round will break. In sa'i, you don't need to have tahara. You don't need to cover your awrah, you don't need to be free from najasa. It is sunnah to have those things, right? So, and in muwala between tawaf and sa'i is sunnah. So muwala between tawaf and sa'i is sunnah, but muwala between the rounds of tawaf and a round in tawaf, in sa'i, sorry, that is a stipulation. That is a stipulation, but the fatwa of the mashayikh is that a small amount, like some of the other fuqaha, is that that's overlooked. Which means you stopped for water, you stopped for salatul janazah, fard salah, you can just continue from the point that you left off. You don't need to go start the round again. The same with tawaf, though the kalam of the fuqaha is that it would break. So now a person ends his sa'i between Safa and Marwa. So here the scholars bring a question, and that is, when a person reaches Marwa on his last round, does he also stand on Marwa and face the Kaaba and supplicate like how he did in all the previous rounds? Here the Hanbali fuqaha, most of them I've not come across, and others mashayikh have also said they've not come across from the fuqaha, from those fuqaha of the past who mentioned this mas'ala. So they say perhaps that on the last round of Marwa, when you reach Marwa, then your sa'i ends. So therefore you do not do the dua on the 8th time. When you reach Marwa, which means when you end there, then you walk off. There's no dua on the 8th time. So then a person would have done sa'i. Now his main actions of Umrah would be done. So a person, if he is a mutamatti', right, we're going to come to these terms in the future lessons. So a person mutamatti', meaning he's doing his Umrah, or a person is doing Umrah. After tawaf and sa'i, now he has completed his main rituals. What's left now is to cut his hair. So in theory, if a person is mutamatti', meaning he's doing Umrah in the months of Hajj, then he's completing his Ihraam, then he's going to do Hajj in the same year. If he brought his animal with him, right, this is what Rasulullah did in the hadith. Nowadays it's not applicable. It's not applicable because you're not allowed to have your animals with you in any case. But the rule in fiqh is that this person does not come out of his Ihram. He stays in the state of Ihram, and then he'll come out on the day of slaughtering, on the day of Eid, when he completes his main rituals of Hajj. But for the rest, which is the people doing Umrah, after Tawaf and Sa'i, now they can cut the hair. So the scholars say, when it comes to cutting the hair, a person can either cut his hair, meaning not shave it. He can trim it or shave it. He can do either of the two. He can trim it or shave it. If it is they doing Umrah before Hajj, right? Before Hajj, then the scholars say here it's better to trim it. It's better to trim the hair. Why? So that you have enough hair on Hajj so you can shave it. So that you have enough hair still to shave it. If you shaved it now in 5 days you're doing Hajj, or 10 days, there's not much hair at all to shave nicely. So they say here it's better to trim. Otherwise it's better to shave the head. And the second best is to trim. It would be better to start off, sunnah to start off with the right side of the head and then the left, and to face the qibla. Okay, all of these things if they are possible. That's why we mentioned the benefit of knowledge, that you'll still get the reward because you know that this what should be done or would have been done if it was in your hands, right? Then they say when it comes to shaving the head, then you can shave it with anything. The objective is to remove the hair, not what are you removing the hair with. So therefore, if you use a razor, it covers the sunnah. If you use a machine, but you've cut off to the extent where generally no more hair can be removed, you've cut with 0 basically, then it would count as well as shaving. That's for here, and we mentioned in the past other situations where you shave, let's say armpits or pubic hair, etc. If you were to even use a machine to that level, it would count as shaving. Right? So that's for shaving the head. Therefore, we say the objective is to remove the hair, not what you are using to remove the hair. That takes us to a mas'ala of a person who is bald. A person who is bald, or he's shaved his hair already. Now he does another Umrah, or Hajj comes, and there's no hair to shave. Or he's bald, there's no hair at all. What to do here now? So here some of the scholars say it falls completely. It falls completely because the objective is to remove hair. That's gone. And other scholars say it's mustahab to still take the razor or machine to pass it through the head. Why? Because some of the scholars say that it's obligatory still to do the action of shaving. So even though hair is not being cut, but doing the action of shaving, then that would you still have to do it. So because there's this difference of opinion, some of the scholars say it's mustahab to still take the razor and pass it over your bald head or your shaven head. Okay, that's with regards to shaving. Then another mas'ala is that this shaving the hair or trimming the hair is part of your Hajj and Umrah. It's part of Hajj and Umrah. Therefore, even if a person is in Ihram, he can cut his own hair. Generally, you can't remove hair. But for in Ihram, to take yourself out of Ihram, and this is now a ritual of Hajj, so you can do it. Or a person in Ihram can cut the hair of somebody else in Ihram to take them out of Ihram. Another thing is that we're saying it's a part of Hajj, therefore it needs intention. It needs intention, right? What does that mean? Or where does that apply? A person can delay shaving the hair to any period of time. There's no time limit to have your hair shaven. Obviously, if you haven't shaven your hair, you still have the rules of Ihram. But now you didn't shave your hair for a few days. You forgot to shave it. And then you cut your hair in the midst. Do we say you're out of Ihram because you cut your hair? We say no, you're not. Because you didn't intend to do the ritual of Hajj. You just intended to trim your hair, to neaten your hair, to cut your hair. That's all. So if you had the intention, then it counts. No intention, it doesn't count. You still have to cut again. So that's with a few masail connected to, in general, shaving and trimming. And we mentioned shaving the hair. Shaving the hair is for males, not permissible for females, So therefore, what's the other option we have for males is to trim. So you can trim the hair. So you trim all of the hair. If you're trimming, you trim all of the hair. If your hair is in braids as a male, then you cut from each part. As a female, in fact, for a male, you can trim any amount, a little amount or a large amount. You can trim any amount. Where do we say this? For a female. For a female, she trims her hair. So if it's also braided, then she trim from every part, because you have to trim all the hair, not each hair, but in general, all part of your head. Then for a female, she trims, they say unmula, so that's around 2 centimeters, 1.5 to 2 centimeters. She cuts that amount of her hair. So the scholars say she cuts that amount or less. More than that, she doesn't need to. So the point is 2 centimeters plus minus or less, which is the amount of, let's say, the top of your finger. If your finger is seeing the 3 little marks of your finger, then that top part. For a male, you can cut 2 centimeters plus or 2 centimeters less. So a male, both goes. For a female, 2 centimeters plus is a no, but less is fine. So that's with regards to shaving the hair and trimming the hair. So then when a person does this, then he is now out of Umrah. Everything that was prohibited for him becomes halal for him. Everything that was prohibited becomes halal for him. So we remember these masail, so that when we come to the aspect of trimming in Hajj, then I'll just mention that it's the same as what we did for Umrah, and all of these rules exactly apply. There. So we end there. We've covered most of the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to teach us that which benefits us and benefit us with that which He teaches us. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.